Sand Ninja 52, also known as Sand, also known as Caleb, and we are here at the arcade for a wonderful episode of Joystick Journeys. They're in your garden, they're in my garden, they're in everyone's garden. It's Bug in your garden. Bug, welcome to the arcade and welcome to Joystick Journeys. How are we doing tonight?
I feel like TV static.
You feel like TV static?
Yeah. Or bees.
Or
Probably
bees?
bees.
Oh no, not the bees!
I feel like bees.
Bees!
Yeah.
Oh, well, welcome in. I want to give the viewers a little bit of an update here because I've been gone for a whole month with Joystick Journeys. Like, I've been still streaming live, but like half of that month was kind of dedicated to you because someone got a little bit hitched or something. Isn't that right?
I don't know what you're talking
You
about.
don't know what you're talking about?
Did something happen? Did like a
It's
large lifetime event happen to me?
it's not like I drove 10.5 hours or anything for it.
No, it's not like you slept on my couch.
Well, a wonderful arcade. Congratulations to you
Thank
for getting
you.
married. We are
Thank you.
happy for it.
I'm just glad you were able to come. It made me very happy.
Yeah. Uh, so, as usual, we like to preference that Joystick Journeys is super non-professional. It is just a couple of bugs in this case hanging out and talking and chatting. Uh, but yeah, we're gonna go ahead and get on started here with the wonderful and amazing question I like to ask first, kind of, and I've modified it a bit of how do where does gaming start for you in your history?
Ooh, okay. I mean, we could go back as far as having one of those, I don't even remember what it was called. I had this little drawing tablet when I was in elementary school that you could put these cartridges in and you could play like Barbie games that were based on drawing and all these other things and I would say that's like my earliest form of any kind of gaming. My dad is a huge tech guy. He has worked in IT his whole life, so he had me, set up with a desktop computer at a really young age, being able to do all of that on my own, teaching me how to play different games and stuff, and whipping my ass at it the whole time. I remember having like what was either an actual Atari or was like a bootleg Atari, and playing like
My
like
brain just
Pong.
brain just pictured bootleg Atari, and it was the most ungodly thing I think I've ever imagined
It
tech
was just
wise.
like I think it was just like a plug and play that
Mm.
had like games on it, and it had like fucking, I think it's called Island Adventure, and you play as this like little guy on a skateboard, and you like have to jump over like snakes and stuff. It's a platformer, and it's like one of my favorite platformers ever. And I just have like distinct memories of like being in the living room as a child and like sitting in the dark and watching my dad play that and just thinking it was amazing. So like that, I would say that's pretty far back.
Yeah, that's and that. So I know you're definitely going to be one of the people that's closer in my age for it. So like that's really interesting to see that far back of especially console wise. Even if it's not full Atari, like
Mhm.
that's back there. That's
Mhm.
that's a that's a that's
Yeah.
a stone's throw.
Yeah. It wasn't until I got a little bit older that I was like actually having like any systems of my own, cuz other than that it was just whatever my dad wanted and I would either get to play it or just get to watch. Um my first real system of my own was the Wii, but we definitely had a GameCube and a PlayStation. And then I can remember, Christmas opening up my big chunky gray Nintendo DS and getting my first ever Pokemon game ever, which was not a mainline Pokemon game. It was Pokemon Rangers and Nintendogs, and just playing those all night and like the Christmas tree in our living room. I could like see it behind me and just like stuff like that. So I can go pretty far back, I guess.
And that's really cool because I know Emmy. Emmy was a handheld for sure. And so like the chunky DS, I remember the chunky DS because I didn't have the gray one. I had the blue one. the real
Mhm.
thick
And I don't
navy
even know
blue.
if the colorful ones came out until, like, a little bit later. I just remember the gray one and everyone making like, kids in school were making fun of me for having the big chunky gray one because they all had, like, DS Lites at that point. Whenever I was, like, in middle school and I still had mine, and I was like, "I think it's cool."
Oh, well, and I think that was the beautiful thing about the DS is that like it was in a way of semi like social media for kids, like even with like because of like PictoChat and stuff like that, and that was always interesting and
Yeah.
everything, dealing with that. But I like that Pokemon Ranger's your first Pokemon game, and
Yeah.
it's not even a mainline one.
Mm-mm. No, and I loved Pokemon from, like, a young age. I'd watch the cartoon, I'd collect the cards, but didn't know how to play the game, and I would there would be boys on the playground with, like, binders full of the cards, and I just had my little measly collection that I had, like, a hair tie wrapped around, and they, like, make fun of me because I just liked the art and didn't know anything else about it, and I loved that Pokemon Rangers game. I can't even remember which one was first now, but I
If it's for the chunky DS, it would be just the original Pokemon Ranger
yeah,
because
but
I don't think Shadows of Omnia, which I believe is the second one, I don't think it
I
came out
always
until the DSi.
when I think of Pokemon Rangers, I think of the one with the Pichu that plays the ukulele.
Oh, okay. That's like the third one, I think.
I love that one. I think it's just because I specifically love that Pichu.
I
But no,
That's the one I
Pokemon
didn't
is
get to play.
I love that one. Pokemon has been, like, one of my biggest, truest interests since I was a kid. My first actual mainline Pokemon game was Diamond, and I had a Chimchar that I evolved into all the way up into an Infernape and to a level 100 Infernape. And for a while, I was transferring it into literally every Pokemon game that I could have
Yeah.
up until the 3DS came out.
Well, see, so like for me, you bring up Pokemon Diamond, and I had Pearl for that era because I
Mhm.
grew up with Pokemon. I had it on like the Game Boy Advance and everything. Um, my biggest memory of Pokemon Pearl was it was the first Pokemon game I can 100% of the national dex. And it's the only Pokemon game I've ever done that because
Mhm.
fuck trying to do that now. First of all.
Yeah, no way. That was always a hard thing for me because I was such a casual player, and you
Yeah.
grow up, as, like, a girl around boys that are playing games, and they're like, "Eevees and Ivies and all of the things," and I'm just like,
Very competitive.
I just like this one. I just like this one." Like, I feel like I'm fairly knowledgeable in Pokemon, but not in, like, that way, just something that I love so much. Um,
Well, when you talk about
and
your Infernape and like transferring it over and everything, that was me with my Charizard from Fire Red. I transferred that and a Poliwrath. And the really cool thing about the Poliwrath I had is in Fire Red and Leaf Green, it was the last Pokemon game that Poliwrath, for whatever reason, could learn Metronome. And so I had a Poliwrath with Metronome
my god.
that had also because I took a lot of the PP ups and shoved it into Metronome. So I had a Poliwrath with Metronome that had 10 uses of it.
Jesus.
Why? Because why not? But those two Pokemon like survived for so long.
My Infernape, I always loved. It actually only had, like, one fire move, and the rest of them were fighting moves.
Sounds about right.
So I just, like, pummel people with close combat and call it a day.
Who cares? It's close combat.
Yeah, it's close combat. Duh.
And then Nintendo. I was not a Nintendo's kid.
I I got the one. I don't remember which version it was, but you could get miniature schnauzers in the game, and I had a miniature schnauzer as a little kid, so I just had my dog in the game, and that's why my parents got it for me, is because they're like, "Oh, it's the same puppy." But just the music of, like, like, that's just so nostalgic to me, and, like, petting the dogs and, like, the shitty little DS mic trying to teach them their names and being like, "Lucky, Lucky," and they go, "Bark, bark," and, like, "You don't know what I'm fucking saying. You don't know what this is.
We don't have AI yet that
You don't
actually
have AI yet."
that transcribes things.
Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah.
So you said your first real console was the Wii then.
Yeah.
So what's your
I had
experience
it.
with the Wii?
We had a GameCube, but I still consider that more my dad's because I didn't really start playing it until I was in like middle school. My experience with the Wii, I would say like again, this is one of those things where my dad being the IT and gaming guy, when he bought it for me, he also kind of bought it for himself at first. So my first real game was Mario Kart, and I was decked out with like the wheel. I would just get my ass handed to me by my dad because he had way more experience playing these kind of games than me. And I would play those games. I had a some kind of monster truck racing game that was like $5 on sale at Walmart. That was always really fun. Um I had the Paper Mario game that came out for the Wii that no one ever seems to remember
Super Paper
what it's
Mario.
about.
It's
Yeah.
Super
No one
Paper
ever seems
Mario.
to know what I'm talking about. Where
Oh,
it's got the Mimi that turns into the big spider in the
yeah,
haunted house.
yeah, and
I fucking hated that as a kid.
Mr. L.
Yes.
And
Yes,
then
I love that one.
the fucking chameleon that has way too hard of a crush on Princess Peach,
And yeah,
which is
yeah,
probably a representation of the
I
fan base.
I just got that game again a couple years ago when I moved in with Cody, and I've been able to play it on his Wii U, and I love that game so much. I have such good memories of that. And then like renting different games from like Blockbuster for my Wii was always really cool. I would say like the biggest one though, like I feel like this is gonna be a deeper cut. The game that had like the most influence on me for the Wii was Endless Ocean.
Okay, I know Endless Ocean. Yeah.
Yeah, and like so at this point I was already living and had moved from Georgia to Florida. So, I was a very like ocean oriented kid. I grew up watching movies like Aquamarine and like mermaid things. So like I was very passionate about like the ocean, especially living so close to it. So when I got Endless Ocean and there's just this beautiful music that plays and this girl that sings this like operatic music while you're diving in the ocean just endless like literally
Yeah, endless.
endlessly aimlessly like looking for like ancient like ruins or like different fish and stuff. I got sucked into it to the point of in 7th grade I was taking like a side course about marine biology because you could do that in Florida. And I wrote like a 7-page paper for fun about sea pigs because that game just like sparked so much passion in me for that career. So that's like my biggest memory with the Wii is definitely like Endless Ocean.
Well, that's I love that connection between games because you don't get to see that very often. Expect a lot, like not as much anymore, in my opinion. Like I believe there's still a shit ton of like, and I wouldn't call Endless Ocean shovelware, but it's not,
Mhm.
it as you said, it's a
It's
deeper cut.
random. It
Yeah,
is a random like they pulled that out of their asses somewhere. They said, "Let's just make like a diving game with a little bit of a story based in Australia."
yeah, and it's just like so. It's really interesting because like I feel like shovelware or those really niche random games
Mhm.
aren't as prevalent anymore.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, there's still shovelware, but it's like it's indie scrollers or stuff like
No,
that. And
people don't and it's I feel like it's prevalent in like movies and TV. Like there's not a whole lot of original IP. It's
yeah,
all sequels. It's all, ideas that have already been out there. It's all remakes. There's not a whole lot of like, let's just put this weird movie out there and call it Over the Hedge and it'll become like a children's cult classic.
oh
Or,
DreamWorks, no.
I know. But like a lot of people our age love that movie.
Oh yeah.
Like, because it was just this random thing or like so yeah, something like Endless Ocean just isn't made anymore, at least on a larger scale. um they did make a second one that I did not play as much, and then they released the one for the Switch not too long ago that I love, but nothing will ever like beat that first game for me.
So
It's
if you had to get rid of a game from your memory just so you could play it again, would that be it then?
Probably, because that I just I like I get very emotional about things like that, like music especially, like to slide over to something else. I love Sailor Moon. I grew up watching Sailor Moon, and all I have to do is hear some of the violin stings or just music from the original anime, and I will like be in tears. And that's kind of how this game is for me, where if I hear some of those songs, I will just like it's just so like profound to me as somebody who like had big dreams of like becoming a marine biologist and just loving the ocean so much and being really passionate about it. I would like check out books from the library and like read about giant squid and like all kinds of stuff. Like it really just ignited like a huge passion in me as an artist and just as a person.
And that's I love that. And like that is like one of the core things about like this podcast for sure is like finding those little niche things there of how games have influenced you that way or media of that sense. Um has there been any games recently that you think that have definitely like not come close to it but like have like reached up close to that bar?
Actually, I would say that like Undertale was like a really big one for me. Um, so like I think that was like 2015, I want to say when that came out, roughly speaking. Because I was with my ex at the time and living with him, and I had everybody was talking about Undertale. Everybody was making art posts about Undertale, and I had been on Tumblr and seen some art, fan art somebody had made, and reblogged it, and just in the tags been like, I have not played this game, but this art's really cool. And I got a message from a literal complete stranger on Tumblr saying, you need to experience this game. What is your Steam account? And so I gave it to them, and this random person gifted Undertale to me. And I was going through a lot at that point in time without getting too
Yeah.
heavy in it. It was not a good situation. Um, that game probably saved me for at least that first that year. I was not great at it. I'm not good at bullet hell. I'm not. I but the story, and again the music.
Yeah.
The music had a profound hold on me to the point of I still listen to it to this day. The shop music, specifically, the shop music in that first town with the bunny girl
Yeah.
running the shop. That music brings tears to my eyes, and I don't know why. It just there's something about it that is just so beautiful and effective and homey, and it just makes my heart just feel so big. And a lot of the music in that game is just amazing. And the characters and just everything about it, to the point of like when Deltarune came out, I like immediately I did like Toby Fox released a free to play chapter of a game. Holy fuck. I dove into that so quickly. I downloaded it the moment I woke up and saw that it was a possibility. Like, so I would think Deltarune or Undertale would be a big one, like in modern times, that has affected me.
So like for me Undertale, I was outside of it for most of it. I was the outside looking in for a lot of it until about college. And I had a buddy, Chris. God, I miss Chris. Chris, if you ever listen to this for whatever reason, God, I miss you, man. Um, but I was always outside looking in, and then he's like, "Hey, just just play." He's like, come over, sit down at the dorm, and just play." And I beat a genocide run,
Oh god.
and and because he was like, okay, so for your first playthrough, you can either be super nice to everybody or you can just straight up murder everybody. And
That is your first choice.
that, of
Good
course,
god.
that's my first choice because my brain went into it with that standard understanding of game mechanics of I kill
Gotta fight.
things, I kill things, I get money, I buy better gear, etc. And like even though Undertale doesn't really do much with like gear or anything, it's like you have that RPG mentality.
Mhm.
But then learning how you can do
They put morality on it.
they put ethics and morality and And it was
It,
also one of those first games that messed with your game files after a certain point and stuff like that.
there are real consequences to your actions, which, like, we all play video games. We all play games where God, the first time I played Minecraft, I found a village and poured lava on it. Like, we all do stuff like that because there aren't real world consequences. But I think we've developed as a society with video games to sort of have to be like, okay, like, repeated decisions in a video game, maybe they do have an effect on who you are as a person. And that game stops and makes you think about it, and it does not let you forget it.
So you bring that up, and I was gonna try not to talk about this game. I was really gonna try not super hard not to talk about this game.
What game?
So
Caleb?
as if you follow me and you've been watching me stream several months ago, and then the last couple streams I've had until then, it is, and I know you've gotten this spiel, so enjoy hearing this for the 50th time.
Fine. That is okay.
But like, it came out this year. I think it came out in April. I had been following it for a little while on Threads, actually, and it was really interesting that I found it on Threads of a lot of places.
Mm-hmm.
And it's fully developed by a Filipino team. It comes into it takes place in the Philippines. And one of the things I've been really enjoying games lately is learning different cultures through games. And like, hands down, Die on a Cross, God Smite Me Now, this is my indie game of the year. And I know I've talked about it with Bird and some others about, like, we need to really cherish our indie developers because they tell such beautiful stories that don't get to be told. But that sense of morality, that sense of your choices matter, really start picking up in that game really hard, and in a very unique way. And I don't want to say anything about it because I know Emmy has it now.
I would like to play it
and
too.
I want to get you a copy. Like,
I actually only caught like bits and pieces of your streams of it specifically because it is something I want to play. I only came in on that very emotional ending of it before you started playing Kingdom Hearts.
And it's just like it hit in so many, and like, because you did get to see that part where I was absolutely bawling like a child.
Mm-hmm. I did not have context, but I kind of figured it out.
And I gave you a little bit of context afterwards in a retrospective way.
I also just know you.
Yeah, that's also fair. There's a moment that's not spoilery at all that I think I've talked to a couple members of the cabin about before, and there's a scene where you and your friend are talking and you're waiting on the road and stuff, but while you're talking, it doesn't show you two on screen. It shows this boy and his friend and his dad waiting there on the road. And it's really interesting because the music swells a little bit, but it's also a little quieter. It's barely in the background, but you can still you still notice the soundtrack. And while you and your friend are talking, there's extra dialogue that's going by on its own on the front. And this boy's like, "Oh yeah, thanks for coming and hanging out. Da 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 da. Well, are you sure you don't want us to wait with your mom?" He's like, "No, I'm a big kid." Da 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 da. And while he's waiting there for his mom, you notice that his face starts getting sadder, and because it's taking a while. And then his mom comes up and is like, "Hey, what happened? Why didn't they wait for you? Wait for me to come up and everything like that." And it's just this small little, like, extra conversation that's just there. And like, the more I think about it, especially like for the ending, that little scene has a purpose. That little scene, you notice, is through the main character Mark's eyes, and he's paying attention to it. But the line that hit me the most is the mom. He's like, "Well, I wasn't scared until I didn't think you were coming." And the mom is like, "You have nothing to worry about. Even when I am far away, I am always going to be here for you." and I'm sitting there with tears running down my face. Like,
Mhm.
I really hate that I don't have the VODs for my first playthrough.
Mhm.
And it's just like it, and again, it's just that small little scene that it just goes, oh, that that did something.
Yeah.
And but then going back to your connection with music for it, I'm a sucker for piano. Like just a sucker for piano. And all half of that soundtrack is nothing but piano music.
Mhm.
And like talking about influences from anime and everything. Have you seen Your
Yeah.
Lie in April?
No, I haven't. Specifically because I know it will ruin me. I
so
can't do it,
so
Caleb.
like it
It
is
will destroy me.
it is one of those animes that just absolutely hurts, but it's such a beautiful soundtrack.
Mhm. I've heard the soundtrack. I'm aware of the major points. I don't know if I can watch it. It might kill me.
But yeah, like you're until then, it has like this sense of morality to it that it doesn't hit you until like it and when it starts hitting you, it starts hitting hard. It takes the baseball bat and it's doing full home run swings right to your heart. And so like I really want to preference it to everyone. Play this game. And not just for like me, for the developers. Because after that story, it's just like who hurt you? Who
I
hurt
love
you and then who saved you?
I love specifically like seeing what indie games we all like put on the shelf and like say please check this out because I know I have that with Paleo Pines, so it's just really fun to see what everyone picks and is like play this game, you have to play this game because I don't know, it's
It
interesting,
it
it's
is
just a little
interesting.
side thing.
No, it is interesting because like I know we all have our favorite games that we're like, oh, collectively, yes, this is a good game.
Mm-hmm.
We have, and I hate saying it somewhat now, but like Skyrim, we've released this thing over a dozen times, but we all can collectively say, hey,
Yeah,
Skyrim is a good game,
I
and we
have
all
owned it.
enjoy it.
I have owned it on almost everything that I can play it on.
Yeah,
Like that was one of the. So I always consider myself a baby gamer that plays baby games because I really only played a lot of Nintendo stuff growing up because that's what I had access to because of that's what my dad liked. So it was really only a lot of Pokemon with like some racing games mixed in. And then, the occasional Cooking Mama or like whatever other like little thing like that. I didn't get into like bigger games or like different games that weren't like soft and cute until Skyrim came out and I was spending time in Georgia with my grandmother and my uncle had been living with her for a little while, and had an Xbox with Skyrim on it and he let me play it and I played that game nonstop for the whole week. I'd never ever played a game like that ever. And that's like one of my favorite games to this day just because of how fun it can be and all the things that you can do.
oh
And
yeah,
now being a PC gamer, I finally have access to more games like that and I'm like overwhelmed by
oh
it.
I bet, and like for me, Skyrim, like I was hyped for it because I was a Oblivion kid. I need to finish Oblivion on stream. Don't touch me. Don't yell at me. God, for the love of everything, people. Because I
Touch.
know I had a couple people ask me about, hey, when are you gonna play Oblivion again? I'm like, I'll get to it. Um,
Yeah.
but like, so me and my brother were like hyped for Skyrim, and um, I remember, and I don't know if I've told this story on Joystick yet or on stream, but I played Skyrim for like good 72 hours. Mom let me stay home from school to play it. I was peeing in 2 liter jugs,
Gross.
so I didn't have to get up and go to the bathroom levels of like, oh, holy,
Terrible.
terrible habit, like exact like stereotypical gamer terrible habits. And
Oh no.
I remember the Friday after, it was one of my really close friends' birthday party, and we're sitting there in all getting waiting for people to like come up and like come to the party and everything. And I'm sitting there just completely spaced out, and I swear to God I heard the dragon roar. And you physically heard me get up out of my seat and push it back and like freak out for a moment. that's like how deep in Skyrim I have. And then like on the flip side of that, one of my favorite memories, I ironically, is my first kiss. My first kiss I got while playing Skyrim.
Oh my god.
Same friend that I went to the birthday party through to, we had started talking, and she was over at my place, and we was sitting there, and I was showing her all the things that I could do and stuff like that. And I lit a fox on fire, and then she got really sad. And so I hugged her, and then she kissed me. Like that's my first kiss right there. Boom, real quick intersection while playing Skyrim.
It's a good thing your lips didn't like clip together in true Bethesda fashion.
but yeah, as I like winding it back, like we have those games that are very like collectively good games. It's really interesting to start deep diving with people what indie game has spoke to them, what really niche game that not everyone has heard about that we can sit there and rant and rave about forever.
Yeah.
So moving with that idea, because I know you are, as you said, you were the baby gamer, quote unquote, uh growing up, because I know a buddy of mine, he is strict, he's mostly Nintendo for the longest time until like and middle of college type of level. uh you have access to all these games, so what qualifications or what things for the game is needed for you to pick to play it?
See, and that's really hard because I don't know. I don't know what wheels in my brain need to turn for me to be interested in a game. And the thing is like it cycles through because I will be interested in one game for like a really long time or one style of game, and then suddenly I want nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
I mean, cute art styles are always a plus, but there are so many games that I've seen with cute art styles that don't have gameplay that I enjoy. So, I don't know. I think I'm also just like a sucker for a gimmick. If I can make a little friend in a game, then I'm more likely to like it more with like Paleopines or like Ooblets. You know, they're
Yeah.
basically Pokemon games. You collect the little guys and you make them your friend. You know, I'll always like that style of game. I'll always like a Stardew Valley style of game. And like, you know, on the opposite end of that, moving back in like a Skyrim direction, things like Baldur's Gate. You know, I really want to get into playing like Fallout at some point. Um I really don't know what combination of things I'm looking for because this is really wide open to me now in a way that it wasn't for most of my life. So, I'm typically like such a fantasy cutesy game person that it's like almost overwhelming. And so I think I almost always look to like people like you in my life who have more knowledge of other games than I would, that aren't just cutesy or are cutesy or just things I wouldn't know about because I was just purely like Nintendo console based for so long. Um and just look for things like that could be interesting. Because otherwise I probably never touch anything. Because I just wouldn't know.
Yeah. and on the flip side of that question, then, is there any genres or games that you don't think you would touch?
I'm not like a League of Legends. I'm not like a just fighting for the sake of fighting person. There has to be something that grabs me. Like I'm not a shooter person. I don't think I'd enjoy like Call of Duty or anything like that. Like maybe occasionally for the sake of like playing with like you or someone else.
Yeah.
Definitely, but like that's why it surprises me that something like Fortnite has such like a hold on me, but it's different. It's fun. I think I would like Splatoon if I gave it if I ever played it because it's a shooter without being like so I think I don't like nitty-gritty like just gray for the sake of the game being gray. You
Yeah.
know? Like that's never grabbed me, and that's been the case in most media that I've been able to absorb in my whole life cuz I didn't watch a whole lot of stuff growing up. So like most of my interests are cartoons And that could just be like a reflection of like I've always have been like kind of depressed, so I like seek out things that don't bring that out in me unless
Yeah,
they have a really gripping story.
yeah.
I feel like I kind of just went away with that, but
No, no, that's that's interesting because I was gonna bring up Fortnite because I was gonna bring it up as an example of like what's a game that you've played that you don't think would be your style, but you've absolutely enjoyed, and I know Fortnite would definitely be one of those in retrospect.
yeah, and that's one of those that's like, and I don't know. I hate the phrase like basic because it downplays something that is generally popular for a good reason.
Yeah,
Like I feel like Fortnite would fall under that category, and just sort of the perception of, "Oh, this is like a 12-year-old's game and it's annoying and blah 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 blah," and like maybe that was the case at first, but it's developed into, I feel like, being like what Minecraft was for kids like us growing up. It's a game that everyone can play, that is fun, in a way that you would not imagine. It's goofy. like I can shut my brain off and just go shoot people with my friends in a really silly way, and you know, I that is one that like I had such a weird, like a skewed perception of because of the bad press it would get because it's a fun game.
yeah. No, I get that, and like I know with Fortnite for me, I was with it with my brother when it first came out, and it was still the Against the Storm, which was originally just what the game was going to be.
Mhm.
And for like me and my brother, that was an interesting concept of like, oh, it's a bit of a tower defense game. It was a bit of a wave shooter game and stuff like that. And
Mhm.
I know me, you, Odin, and Cozy Celinda, we did the Halloween event.
That was really
And
fun.
and that to me, if they would have done the building with the traps again, that would have been that would have been peak perfect because that's
That
exactly what the original game used to be. And I always
I
just have a
really
bad
enjoyed that.
that was it was such a blast. And it's like I always had that skewed perception of Fortnite Battle Royale because that's not what the game originally set out to be. And
Sorry,
it's
my cat's doing something.
no, you're fine. Um and it's interesting because now you have Fortnite Racing. You have Fortnite Lego. You have the Rock Band Fortnite. But they
Yeah.
but they haven't brought back Against the Storm. And I find that really
Yeah.
interesting.
I think the Lego Fortnite is definitely like a good development. I haven't played it, but what I've seen of it, it seems good. And the racing isn't necessarily a bad idea, but this is one of those things where like I think they're trying to feel out other niches,
Yeah.
and they're trying to make themselves too big in the same way that like Facebook, Twitter, every app is trying to be the same thing. So they've all got, TikTok functionality or like different things like that. Like they want to be the one app, they want to be the one game. And I'm
Yeah.
hoping they won't go too far with that because they've got something good
Yeah.
that's really popular and they should just hone that in.
Well, like you bring up like how they're trying to be that one game. I know one of the things that started messing with me, especially because at the time when I started playing Fortnite again, I was a parent. I was a parent full time and everything. And it was how you can like I like that there's tools to make your own game mode in it, but that's also very Roblox. That's very Roblox.
Yeah.
And the worst part,
Which if we could go we could go further back and with a game that I've never even played, like Little Big Planet.
yeah,
Games that like allow you to build your own levels. That isn't like a new concept, but the way that is developed, it definitely does feel like Roblox. It's just I feel like that one's hard though, because you either love it or you hate it.
well, and the one thing I was going to bring up with it is so like Martin Luther King Jr. Day this past not I think it was this year or the year before, they made it where you can integrate videos because they did from Fortnite, they did a like movie thing where you could it was Martin Luther King's speech on repeat for whatever reason. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. And then they added where you can integrate videos. Well, the internet did what the internet does best. And I don't know if anyone actually heard anything about this or saw it on whatnot.
Mm-mm.
Um, People started putting porn, like
Of course they did. Of
hardcore
course they did. Of
porn, and
course
it's
they
just
did.
like there's a whole nother dimension now that I have to worry about my kids playing this kid-friendly game, and it's just like now I've got to sit here and watch
Yeah.
out for porn on an E for Everyone game, and
I
it
know.
took them a while to like start catching it and stuff like that, and it's just like, but still, what the hell?
I can remember being on websites like Stardoll or Neopets or Gaia Online as a kid, and people would sneak porn onto those. If there's a way, people will put porn on it, no matter what it is.
Like it's
They
like
will do
it
it.
is Rule 34 in the worst sense of if it exists, there will be porn.
Pretty much.
I do want to ask a question though, because you brought up Neopets and you brought up Gaia Online, which those two I know very, very well. We've had that conversation. What the fuck was that first one?
Stardoll?
What is that?
So Stardoll was like dress up game central. Like they had, it still exists. They had tie-ins with like celebrities and would have, you could dress up Zach and Cody in their clothes, or you could dress up different, like Ashley Simpson, like all of these like people. Marilyn Manson had one all there, like in their very distinct style. They had all these celebrities that you could dress up. And a small like social function that you had your own profile and your own character, and they had like you could like dress up your character to look like you, or like get, it was like a fashion website with a dress up, with dress up games being their big pull. And I loved dress up games. That's why I actually really like Dress to Impress now, which I did not think I would like as much as I do, but I love dress up games to the point of on my iPad on Procreate, I have a model of myself that I made in different outfits, and I like dress it up when I'm bored and like draw outfits for it and like switch things around. I love that kind of stuff. It's fun for me. Like I don't know that I'm necessarily like a huge fashion person, but like as an artist, I love to create like cohesive outfits or to like dress people in things that I think they would look good in, and like that tickles my brain in the right way. But that website had a huge hold on me. My mom probably remembers me being on there all the time. And you yeah, you could you were like a runway model, kind of like silhouette body type, and you could go buy all these like designer clothes and all these like cute different style clothes that they would make. But yeah, the dress up game aspect of it was always really fun, because like when I think of like a website with a ton of dress up games, maybe like a Girls Go games, they're all these different style. Stardoll had their own distinct style of the dress up games. So having like I'm pretty sure they had Kiss on there as an option too. Like all of these random polls, like just people that like were relevant at the time.
Yeah,
Um Miley Cyrus, like all of it, you know. It was very, they had they they had fucking god, they just ridiculous amounts of like names on a list.
that's hilarious. I'm going to have to check this out
Yeah.
after this because I just I wanna touch it. I wanna see it.
Yeah.
Uh,
It still exists. I don't know how different it is. I can still log into my old account, but I haven't done that in a couple years. So I was on there all the time, and I would go to the grocery store and get a little gift card for their in-game currency and be like, "Mom, can you buy me this so I can buy fancy clothes on Stardoll and get a pet for my house?"
okay, so because you also brought it up in this like niche thing, and I feel like you're the first person that has really. I want to touch on Neopets and like Gaia Online and stuff like that because like
Yeah.
I feel for a lot of gamers that's and I use the game very loosely on that one, but
Yeah.
also at the same time like
Online forums with like a game aspect.
yeah, and
Yeah.
because like Neopets has a resurgence right now, like a
Yes, it
big
does.
resurgence, and I'm
Yes, it
so
does.
glad for it because they gifted it to the fan base, and the fan base has just taken it and ran with it.
Well, I think they finally got complete control of it back from everyone else that's owned it, and they're trying really hard to revamp it, and I'm hoping it doesn't go the way of Club Penguin.
Well, I know because I watched one streamer who was doing Neopets a couple months ago.
Amanda Files?
No.
Is it Amanda Files?
No.
Oh.
It's one I've met through Threads, and
Okay.
they're a blessing of a bean. But it's really interesting because they're doing like the story content again now, and like just actually doing a
the
story.
big plot lines.
Yeah, the big plot lines we get every once in a while.
And it's so funny because I would be on Neopets and not understand what I was doing.
No, because you had like 5 walls of text to read through.
So now as an adult, like I love Neopets either way. Like I remember getting McDonald's Happy Meal toys of like Neopets and just like so excited about that. But now as an adult and being back on there, which I need to get on there more again. And like actually understanding what I'm doing, it's a lot more fun. But yeah, this resurgence of stuff like that, and this kind of falls back on the like everything is remakes and stuff. It's nice to see these things get rebuilt.
Yeah.
In these more like niche contexts, you know, things that had these like sort of cult followings, like Neopets did. Gaia Online is dying.
Because Flash has died so hard, Gaia is
their new. Well, and if you go on there at any point in time, there's maybe 1,000 people.
Yeah.
I definitely was not good on Gaia Online. I was actively being groomed by adult men on Gaia Online. But I also still have like really good memories of like being on there and like talking to people and like learning about anime and making friends on there that I talked to all the time, you know. But yeah, it's actively dying, and I love seeing people write fucking college dissertations on the economy of Gaia Online and how fucked it is. I have trillions in Gaia Gold. Yep. I have trillions, and that is the equivalent of $1.
Yep, because they said, "Hey, let's give the fan base an economic system that is dependent purely on them," and it's just like,
well, then they started adding those items that give you obscene amounts of currency.
Yeah,
obscene. So the inflation rates got crazy. God, it's so funny. And Neopets was the same way.
Neopets was the same way. They could.
I think the other one that got hurt that way was Habbo Hotel for a long time, which I never played, but I know that they were another one that got hurt.
I don't even know that one.
It's okay. I was really into the avatar-based, like online, like Tinier Me. I was on there all the time. That was another one I was on all the time. It no longer exists. They pulled the plug on it like a really long time ago. But I was on there all the time, and it was anime based from Japan and had this really distinct art style, and you could do like gacha pulls for fancy items and stuff like that. I was always on there. So those were like a big part of my childhood, to my detriment in a lot of ways, but still in such a way that like they shaped me and who I am, and I probably wouldn't take it back.
Well, and like, so to round it back to kind of what Joystick Journeys is and everything like that, do you think like Neopets and Gaia and stuff like that has really influenced you as a gamer now?
Absolutely. I think it all falls back onto like cartoons and anime and fantasy based things, like my huge interests in art styles and stuff like that. Like I think it absolutely has influenced that, and I love anything with a dress up aspect where you can customize a character, which is all that the biggest thing you can do in Gaia Online. I mean, God, I have stuff now on my account. Well, the website is no longer relevant, but in like the 2010s when I would have been on there too young, you know, you'd have all these people who were older than me and could spend their real world cash on it in their fancy outfits, just going AFK in towns. Just, that's it. That was like the thing to do, was put
Yeah.
on the fancy items in go out into towns and just go AFK and let people see you.
Yeah. Oh god. I remember going into like Gaia realms and just
Mhm.
going there.
And like rally and stuff like that. Yeah.
Oh god, rally, gosh.
So like I think that all falls back onto like I love any customization aspect. Like I think that's really fun and putting things together and making outfits or making characters. I mean, gosh, I remember some of my like earlier days of making an OC uh based on my guy online character. I used that as like my format for what I wanted them to look like and tested out ideas, and then I would draw them. I literally have a current drawing of that same OC that I can show you later.
That's great. Oh my gosh, that's wonderful. And I also really want to draw my avatar now because he's fucking dope looking, and that would be
Yeah.
really that'd be a really just fun exercise as an artist.
Yeah. I think also Gaia is like sort of like what threw me into these kind of communities where I was comfortable making friends online in communities like that. So I don't think I would be the same kind of gamer without that aspect.
And that's I like that. I like
Yeah.
that for you. And I can agree to some degree on it. For sure.
Mhm.
Because I definitely miss a lot of that form based thing.
Mhm.
Like I remember Nickelodeon having the best forms, especially specifically the niche forms for Avatar: The Last Airbender.
I have such a deep cut that I'm gonna go into after this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I will say, like, I remember like early days role playing or story building was Nicktoons avatar forms for me, and that's like where some of my first like OCs came from, and understanding what an original character was or
Mhm.
things like that.
OC, do not steal.
OC, do not steal. And so like, but I gotta hear about this deep cut now.
Okay. So, I don't even know. I think I was in elementary school at this point, so I was still living in Georgia. Post like General Mills cereal had an online world,
Yes. Yes.
and they had these mouths that you could dress up.
Yeah.
You know what I'm fucking talking
I know
about?
what you're talking
I'm
about.
so excited right now. I was addicted to that. Something about the sounds and the colors and the textures. Like, again, I think this all falls back on like my artist brain. I was addicted to that. You could dress up these weird blue and green mouths, like different
Yeah.
colors, and they had hair, and like you made them sing.
Yeah.
Like, I was obsessed with that.
Oh, because
That is a deep cut,
that is a
dude.
deep cut, and I think I can go a little bit deeper.
Oh yeah.
And it's not like one of those community things. It was a game that they put out with Captain Crunch.
Mm.
And it was a CD-ROM game that you had it was for the Crunch Berries. And it had like these little creatures that you would feed crunch berries and go and earn crunch berries, and you could age it up and stuff. And when it hit certain ages, you unlocked more games for them to play. And it was only a select like set of boxes for a while for Captain Crunch. And I remember playing it at my grandma's house all the time.
We're gonna go cut to cut.
Okay.
Does the word funkies mean anything to you?
Yes.
Okay.
It's Amiibo
I
before
had
Amiibo.
Yeah, I had one of those, and I was too young to understand how to do it, and also their world was too janky to run on my
Their
computer.
world was jank. That was rough times.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you know what I'm talking about. I remember trying to play that so much, but it's such a far back memory in my brain. It's so fuzzy, but I just remember sitting at my PC and the smell of the hot plastic as it's trying to run this program.
Yes. Oh, and it's moments like that that like because I always bring up with joystick like those memories that really like solidify you as a gamer. And it's like it's things like that. The smell of your PC getting
Visceral. Like, people I don't think people that don't play video games understand that. Like, I have like, Stardew Valley is another game that, like, I've sunk hours of my life into that I love so much, and the first time I played it was when I lived with my ex and I was not doing well, and I remember a day of sitting next to the open screen door in my chair on my laptop and like it was like raining and hot and I could smell it and I'm playing Stardew Valley and I'm also listening to the Adventure Zone from the McElroy brothers and I just like that collectively that feeling of all of these things like that is just such a peaceful memory to me.
and I love that. Just like games that have those memories that are just so deeply tied to them.
Mhm.
Like since I got the capture card now, which again, defend if you're in here. Thank you. 1,000 times thank you. Um Playing Kingdom Hearts because that's what we voted for like the first big series for me to play through.
Mhm.
Going through
Yeah.
Destiny Island the other night and just like looking at Riku and his water raiders and remembering like that's not pants. What is this
Our
outfit
pants
you're wearing? And
is a it is a Final Fantasy
oh, it
outfit.
is a Final Fantasy outfit through and through. Or like that being some of my first interactions with Titus and Waka from Final Fantasy X.
Ah ha ha ha.
No. No. But it's just like hearing bringing back to soundtracks because I'm a very avid like game soundtrack. I know that for me and Twitch we're gonna have a hell of a time because or already like four things got
Oh
copyright muted for when I
no.
switched to Kingdom Hearts, and it was simple and clean for sure.
Simple.
And then a bit of Traverse Town got the music copyrighted,
That's like one of the best
and
ones.
then Destiny Island specifically whenever the Heartless start attacking. That one got hit too. The battle music in there because it's a
That's so
slightly
cool.
different battle music than a lot of it, and I'm just like, okay, but hearing simple and clean, I'm just like, oh, that is wonderful and amazing, and again, those game soundtracks are beautiful, and those connections that they have with them. Like until then, if they come out with a vinyl, I'm going to throw money. I'm going to throw money so fast that I don't even care if I have bills that need paid. It is being bought.
I know. I feel like it's so important to hold on to like any physical releases of games like that because otherwise they're just lost to time.
And okay, so bringing that up, I was listening to a TikTok and a news article that went kind of hand in hand. And there's this company, I can't remember what they're called, but they are trying to uh they're trying to collect game media and files and stuff like that so they're not lost to time. So like currently, so like say for the PS5, they are
Mhm.
making a list currently of every PS5 game that gets released. So when the PS5 gets taken out of production at some year down the line, they can then have a record to go back through, buy all of it, and then have it as a library online. And
Hell yeah.
it's really disheartening because Nintendo and Sega just hit them really hard. And so they
I
lost
know.
a lot of their NES stuff. They lost a lot of the Sega Genesis.
And that's really disappointing and that's like physical media is really like falling out of fashion. Like there's no real ownership to that stuff anymore. And it's kind of ridiculous. Like
It is because
and then the lack of re-releases. Like if you're not going to release it, you're going to have to let people find a way to hold on to these memories because
and that's what it is
they
right there. Those
yeah,
memories, those memories right
like
there.
emulating a Pokemon game. Like
Yeah, because they're like,
people are always going to find a way because they're passionate about it.
and I think that's something that is definitely really big with the gaming community. We'll find a way. I mean,
Yeah.
we'll run Doom on
Yeah.
anything that can run Doom. We've proven it time and time before.
Mhm.
So I think we'll definitely figure out a way to do it from there as well, of just like, because I know like the Xbox Live Store, it's dead. The Nintendo
Yeah.
DSi shop, it's
Dead.
dead.
Yeah.
And like,
And just all of those purchases that you've made on there, you can't access them anymore. Nothing is backwards compatible. Nothing, like everything is obsolete after you cancel all of that. Like Pokemon Ranch on the Wii, which was a
yeah,
Wii exclusive channel that you could get as a bonus. Can't play that.
and it's like, it's weird to think about, especially because again we're very similar aged,
Mhm.
how much technology and how much gaming has changed,
Mhm.
and how quick it's changing, but how quick certain aspects of it are dying.
Mhm. Yeah.
Like couch co-op games, for example. That's a niche now. That is such a niche,
Yeah.
and it's
And I
crazy.
I feel like I'm gonna get kind of like out there, but like I think it's kind of just a reflection of like societally we are losing like community. We are losing connection to our neighbors. So the concept of young kid like I even hear this from people in my life that are older than me that have kids now. The concept of kids having their friends over to like just do stuff like that, it's like so like no, it's so far out there. Like we've moved so far away from like Mario Party-esque games or things that require you to have like your kids have their little friends over, you have your friends over to play these games. It's all long distance co-op
And like,
or single player.
some of my best memories are like LAN parties. And like, I had to explain to someone the other day what a LAN party was. And that was like, what? Or like my one of my coworkers at work, I was asking him because where I brought the PlayStation into the office now, and it's like, um I was asking, hey, do you happen to have an Ethernet cable that's stupid long, because I want to get my PlayStation hooked up internet wise Ethernet, just because it's going to run smoother that way.
Mhm.
And he's like, oh yeah, I think I might have one that's pretty long from when I used to do LAN parties. And me and him just sat there for an hour talking about how, like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, we don't have LAN parties anymore, and it's crazy. Like,
Yeah.
everyone bringing their Xbox over, we're plugging them all together with an Ethernet cable, and we're just going to town. And it's like,
Yeah.
kids don't have that,
Mm-mm.
and they're never going to
No.
experience it.
No, and I think we're like just we don't trust as much as like a society anymore. Like we don't
No.
have those big like trunk or treat is like way more popular at this point than actual trick or treating because nobody trusts their neighbors anymore. So like kids aren't meeting their neighbor friend like possible neighbor kids like and doing these things anymore. And it's weird to see because that's just such like a core memory of is like one of the girls in my neighborhood coming over and we play Just Dance or Cooking Mama together or like whatever weird little multiplayer game I had, you know.
Or me and a
Yeah.
bunch of the guys coming over and then doing like Age of Mythology, where you had to you swim you cha- you would literally physically have to get up out of your seat to let someone else sit and play their turn. And it's just like,
Yeah.
oh,
I remember having to take my laptop over to a friend's house in high school so we could play Minecraft multiplayer.
that's
Like
crazy. That's
yeah.
crazy to think about now.
Yeah.
because now we can
Mm.
just we jump on our own. Well, I
Yeah.
remember the days where you used to have to figure out how to host a server,
Yeah. Yeah.
and now we just pay what,
Yeah.
like $10 a month or something for it.
And I think it's crucial that we at our age grew up the way we did into this sort of lifestyle now, because otherwise I think we would be very different people and probably not the greatest way. Um, but yeah, it's weird to see kids come out of the gate like already doing this kind of stuff, and it's interesting to see like it's going to be interesting to see how they are affected, good or bad.
Oh yeah. Well, so like bringing my job into it a little bit, like for those that know, I sell furniture. Um, I had a guy come in and buy one of the. We've got a recliner that's like a multimedia function. You can Bluetooth it up to like a surround sound system and everything. He bought that for his kid for a gaming chair. Like it is a full power recliner with massage, heat, lumbar support, headrest, and he bought it as a gaming chair. And I'm like, power to you, kid. And the kid was like 13, maybe younger. And I'm just
Sorry,
like, what?
my cat has like a whole chicken nugget is just carrying around playing with it.
Let it eat the
I
chicken
don't even
nugget.
know where she got it. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
No, you're fine. But like, it's just like, what? And like, the chair's like, I think 17,000. Well, 1,700. And I'm just like, power to you, kid. Power to you. Because I've got a chair here that's like, it is permanently like back because I've leaned into it so hard. The one of the arms is getting ready to fall off, and it's just like,
I know, and I think stuff like that's nice, and parents like embrace their kids' hobbies that way. But it's also just like, oh god,
oh god,
oh god,
this kid's got a full recliner.
yeah. Like he has no concept of just normalcy. Like that's like a pretty extreme
And then I remember like moving into my house for the first
upgrade.
time, and I sat my computer in my living room on the floor and used cardboard boxes to set my tower on, my keyboard on, and used my
Whatever it
TV
takes.
as a monitor at the time.
Whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes. And I think that's something else that like a lot of younger gamers doesn't have anymore.
Mm-mm.
We are resourceful as gamers. We are break the bounds and do what we need to do to get things done type of gamers.
Mhm.
And I think that's a skill and a mentality that's lost for it.
Yeah, nothing is just kind of buggy anymore. Like,
Except for
and
Bethesda.
well, like unless it's something that like people are being overworked on and underpaid on, there's no fun quirks anymore. There's this game that I love, and I'm actually thinking about streaming it sometime soon. I used to play it on my Switch a lot, and now I have it for PC. It's called Calico, and it's yeah, it is buggy on purpose is almost the way I would describe that. There's a lot of stretch and movement and
Yeah.
like weird little jerky like things. It stuff like that. It everything is just too polished and too neat. You know? There's and it I think it you can also say that about like things like animation now because we have lost the ability to have this like 2D art like be created anymore in the same way. You lose some of that nitty-gritty like things that give things personality, and I don't think kids see that anymore, and it's all just the same level of polish.
Well,
And it's
it's sad we hit on it so hard. And like, so I if you've been listening to Joystick for a while, you know I don't like fully recognize like I'm sitting here looking at chat, but like Panic brings up Cyberpunk. I had a very different experience with Cyberpunk than the general populace. And I don't know if it's just me or what, but like,
I yeah.
but
I
for,
never played it, but I heard a lot of negativity and I never understood it.
and so like with Cyberpunk, for a lot of people, they had some like really buggy problems. I maybe had it crash twice on me, and that was it. But,
Yeah.
and it's just like, Cyberpunk, I feel like, is a really interesting concept for it. Of like, they were definitely overworked, and it definitely hit really hard. But then another one that I know got a really bunch of bad flack was um
I know what you're trying. I know the Bethesda space game. What the fuck is it called? Is that where you're going?
it's not by Bethesda, but I know what. No, not Starfield. Not Starfield.
Okay, that's
It
what I was thinking of,
it
because that one got a lot of shit
that one
too.
got a lot of shit, and I had the same experience. I didn't have very many problems with it, and I was running that on PC, and I was impressed I was running it on PC. But
No Man's Sky.
yes, if that came from Cody, thank you. Um, with No Man's Sky, I I pre-ordered it, and it's first of all the last midnight release I went to. And
Yeah.
kids don't remember those, so enjoy
Yeah.
that fun fact. But like No Man's Sky, everyone's like, "Oh, this is empty. Oh, this game has nothing to it." But if you looked back behind the scenes for it, their entire studio flooded. And they lost so much work. And then they went to Sony because Sony was help producing it. And they're like, "Hey, we need more time on this game." And Sony went, "No. You have a hard deadline or this isn't getting done." And it's like,
Yeah.
and this was that game developers, I'm pretty sure, like, first game, and like it was a big game, and I'm very, I wouldn't say prejudiced, that's definitely not the correct word for it. But I'm definitely, I have fallen to the ill will of like games that have promised too much.
Mm-hmm.
Because like Vampire, if you know it, that is a game I'm sorry, it has left a terrible taste in my mouth because they promised so much with it and they underdelivered so hard.
Mm-hmm.
But with No Man's Sky, they gave us what they said they were going to give
Mm-hmm.
us. They gave us generated planets. They gave us unlimited
Yeah.
a full universe and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
then once they got back up on their feet, they kept delivering.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's hard to not get swept away in the angry mob sometimes.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what happened with that game. I did not play it, but I watched my friends play it and they liked it. And then one day they started complaining about it in the exact same way everybody else was, even though nothing had changed, they still liked it. I think that's where we start to lose sort of the like we can be critical of things and it's normal to give criticisms or to say things like that and not catastrophize or like moralize like a failing in something like that unless it's like necessary, like actually morally wrong.
Yeah.
Like this game coming out and maybe needing like more time, like, and them getting basically burned alive for it was not necessary, but everybody was jumping on that bandwagon and it hurt them clearly.
Yeah. And to think of like that cancel culture and stuff like that, and it's just like, where's the line? Where's the line with it anymore?
Holding people accountable for real problems is more something that like I would qualify as cancel culture, whereas something like that in the gaming community with people complaining about things like that, I don't know what I would qualify that as, but I feel like
I
like
think
cancel culture is a different
I think
thing entirely.
I think it becomes either two things at a certain point. I think it either becomes a meme
Yeah.
or it kills the company.
Mm-hmm.
Because Bethesda's a meme.
It's
how
like
many, how many times do you hear Todd? It just works.
God damn it, Todd Howard. It's like was it Scarlet and Violet that people were upset about the national decks? You can't fucking put over 1,000 Pokemon in this game if you want it to run the way that it runs.
Not on a Switch.
Not on the Switch.
like
Not for $70.
I love the Switch to death. I love it. It's
Hmm.
fantastic.
It is a potato.
It is a potato running quantum physics
It is
at
beloved to me like most potatoes, but it is a goddamn potato. You try running Skyrim on that thing?
oh,
No. It will burn
works.
you.
It works. It works. It just
But
works.
like reasonable expectations. And I think that's something that's another example of like people just complaining to complain.
And like I think it's interesting, like because like I'm just grabbing it. This thing here. It
Mhm.
is a wonderful idea of being able to
Have your friends play with you,
have your friends play with you, it being a mobile console in your hands. That is a
but
great idea. Cool.
it's a couple years late.
It's a couple years late, and I think, in my opinion, if people want the quality that they're wanting out of Nintendo so much, is we need a good, solid home console again for Nintendo.
I feel like we could have that with the Switch, but yeah, it falls back on like that lack of community again. That and I think Nintendo always kind of has fallen back on a gimmick because like the 3DS,
Yeah,
that 3D aspect
hurt.
hurt hurts
God,
your eyes.
God, I got so
Never
nauseous.
needed it to begin with, and then they started coming out with the 2DS because they had a solid concept. It didn't need the gimmick.
And I think,
Same thing, and like I think the Switch is brilliant with how the components work. Switch Lite
yeah,
works just as well. We just need it to plug into the goddamn TV. It's a solid concept that doesn't necessarily need the gimmick, but it didn't. This gimmick was not near as bad,
no,
in my opinion.
you bring up the 2DS, and I love the idea for the 2DS of the funny part of they took the one thing about the DS that you knew it for, and they got rid of it. The fact that the 2DS doesn't fold for me is one of my biggest pet peeves.
Well, they started doing the 2DS XL that does fold. They have
Oh,
that too, and
I
then they
forgot about
added
it?
they
Yeah,
added the extra like stick to it as well. Yeah, like 3D as a concept is like really fun, but the way they did it with the 3DS sucked ass so bad. Like it just hurt your eyes
yeah,
flipping that little screen up and just being like, ugh. But um, yeah, like it's a solid concept. Or like the DSi. The DSi was really cool because it had a camera on it, and for that generation, like that was very new and very exciting. But again, it's a gimmick,
and
and I feel like that's something that they fall back on,
I think for the
and it's not
DSi with the
needed.
camera, I think that was something definitely more aimed towards the Japanese market for sure.
Mhm. Mhm.
Because for for the Japanese, I know they have a you could set up a cell phone in your DSi, and I'm like,
Mhm.
that's cool.
Yeah.
Uh,
I think Japanese cell phones are like so much better than what we have available to us in America. Like the flip phones with the touchscreens and the actual keypad.
yeah,
Fucking, I'd take that back any day. Um, yeah, the DSi was cool. It definitely made more sense to me then, but for the Americanized audience, it felt more cheesy.
yeah,
Because we don't our society is very different in those kind of like fashions, like those fads. So like something like that was definitely probably more appreciated by adult audiences in Japan. And when they tried to advertise it that way here, I don't think it came off the same way when we started getting them, and it it was a it became cheesy,
yeah.
unfortunately. Except in the case of the WarioWare game
Yes,
that they had that implemented the camera.
WarioWare was fantastic. It always good. We'll never
Um
diss a Wear game.
yeah. But yeah, like when the Switch came out, I pined after that for the first year, and I remember spending my whole paycheck on it finally when I got it. And I didn't have the friends to do the actual like Switch stuff with. but I still think it's amazing. Still think it's an amazing concept. I think it's something that they need to hone in on again and make. I think if they did the Switch with a flip screen like the DS, they'd be fucking golden.
They'd
And if
be
they
good.
put out two versions, one kind of like the Switch Lite that had a home base dock and everything that functioned that way, and then one that had the capabilities of the Joy-Cons coming out, and put those out separately, I think that would be amazing. But do you remember all the Nintendo Labo stuff? The card
Yes. Oh my
stuff?
god.
I thought that was so fucking cool.
Yeah.
I
it was
wanted to do that
interesting.
stuff so bad, and by the time I got mine, that had kind of died down a little bit. I don't know where I was going with that, but I always thought it was so cool, and like thinking about introducing like kids to gaming and having these like
Paper
very
crafts.
real assets that they have to build, and then getting the satisfaction of like implementing the video game into it as well. I fucking loved that.
Oh, it was great in concept, and um it goes back to like the thing that Nintendo's known for, their gimmicks. They have those gimmicks, they have that little niche thing that goes, that's cool.
And I don't want to sound like I'm faulting Nintendo for the gimmicks,
Oh
because
yeah.
where Nintendo succeeds is the whimsy, is the like at the heart of it is play. And they have such a wide audience of ages, but it is play, and that is what they want to convey to anyone who picks up any of those devices. That is why they succeed. It's just it's still a gimmick.
Yeah.
So it's still something to kind of be like, okay, but it's imaginative, it's unique, it's what makes them stand apart from some things like, you know, Sony or like Xbox and stuff like that. Like, it's not necessarily a fault, but it's still something that you can look at in kind of a different lens.
Oh yeah, for sure. Um, my brain just died. Full stop. Full stop. Just full train. Just at the station. Stop for a minute.
On a different kind of train, it's just and this is like kind of related. When I think about things like the Nintendo Labo, I feel like that was such a unique combination of real world and video games, and I think that's so hard to balance currently with younger kids when they are coming out of the womb with an iPad in front of them. And
Yes.
and that is so hard, because you want your children to develop and know about things that the other kids know about, but you also like like they don't have to imagine, you know? And I think so, if something like that could have taken off, where you have these real things that you have to touch and mold into a creation and then apply, like, oh my gosh, amazing, a video game. I think we need more of that
Yes.
for younger kids, because I think they're losing some of that.
And I think we're gonna be losing some of our biggest our artists. I think that's what we're going to be losing a lot of, and that's sad because we're getting to that point in games now where gamers are now making the games that they love.
Mhm.
The indie community being a beautiful
Mhm.
side of that.
Mhm.
And it's like the corgi game that everyone, all the cabin members got to play and everything early.
Mhm. Yeah.
The Spyro,
Paleo
the Spyro
pa-
reference in that
yeah.
proof.
Paleo Pines is really suffering as a indie uh, like developer. Like, they don't have any funding. They're trying to figure out where to go next, and that's what sucks. And it goes back to the early conversation of like there are no new IPs, because when they are being made, they're not being funded. And that's hard, because it falls on us then to be the ones to fund it, and there's only so many dollars that we can throw at people, the community $5,
Yeah,
for those things that you believe in, and that's what sucks.
I I think that's something that like we really like. I think that's why like talking about the cabin specifically,
Mhm.
we focus on our indie games so much
Mhm.
just for the beauty that is
Mhm.
these stories, and like getting into a little bit of the rough topic because of everything that is going on currently in America,
Mhm.
like those LGBT stories that
Yep.
that one of their only places that they get to be told is indie games.
In indie games, yeah. I know, and being able to have something like that that I developed and that people have put so much work and heart into, and there's me. There's somebody like me in this game. Like that is very important. That's why Paleo Pines is always one that I fall back on because they are. It's such a positive game. It's almost sickening.
Yeah,
It's delightfully just vibrant and calm and friendly, and it's like a reflection of the world that I think a lot of people like us want to see. Um and yeah, just seeing queer stories told in this fashion is just so important.
it
And
is.
this is really the only way that we see them.
and and it's like talking about TV shows for a little bit,
Mhm.
because I'm doing I watched Danny Mata. If you guys know him, you know him. He does a lot of anime review reactions and stuff. Learned he's 2 years younger than I am, so that hurts a little bit on like, man, this guy blew up. What the fuck am I doing? Type of deal.
We like the pretty guy on TikTok that does like the
He owns a lot of
I feel like
Pokeballs currently, if that helps.
I know who you're talking about, I think.
So I've been rewatching through his reaction videos, The Owl House, which I know is pretty big in a lot of our communities. The Owl House is a prime example right now where it's just like what could have been and what didn't happen because we stopped letting that
Mhm.
story be told,
Mhm.
because Disney got too Disney
Mhm.
and doesn't allow that story to be told. And
Similar.
it's like that for indie games.
Mhm. I feel like that was a similar case with things like Gravity Falls and Steven Universe too. Just
Steven
what
Universe
could have,
specifically, yeah.
yeah, what could have been, yeah. And it's amazing when stuff like that gets made on such a large scale with such a huge name backing it. But that's when these people have to compromise those stories, and that is always heartbreaking because then we get these indie games and indie stories that do not hold the punches. It is honest, it is relatable,
It hurts.
and then they just um, they either succeed or they don't, and
And
that and I hate that.
I had
Yeah.
my if you guys don't know, my 1 year stream anniversary. Ironically, it was actually like technically the anniversary stream would have been the one that I had my brother on, which is funny. Uh, but we did my official one the day after and everything, which was Friday. Um, and it's like I want to use this platform for anyone and everyone, and I know you want to use your platform for it. And Emmy and the cabin, like that's one of our main things as the cabin,
Mhm.
and it's so interesting taking a moment and realizing, as streamers, our communities, we have power, but we don't have power without our communities in general. And we could be telling so many of these indie game stories, and we could be showing them off in flights. And it's one of those things where it's really interesting of what gets shown.
Mhm.
what things are out there, because like in media right now, I know one of the big topics is the new Dragon Age game,
Mhm.
and it's the character creation. And it's something
Mm.
that has come up in character creation over and over and over again within the last couple of years. And they added, and it hit big with Baldur's Gate as well.
Mhm.
But you can, with Dragon Age, you can do transcars, and
Yay!
you can do. I think they have at least he, she, they pronouns as options, and it's
I
just the
like that.
three. And it's like a lot of people have been flipping their shit about it, and it's like, stop, just stop.
Yeah.
All these, all anyone wants is to just be heard.
Yeah. Like to see themselves in the things that they love.
Because that's like, that is one of the biggest things of like a role playing game,
Is
that
to yeah,
to
yeah,
to put yourself in that world, and you're getting uppity because there's an option for someone to do that.
yeah.
And like, I am a
It,
cis white male, I am white bread through and through, but it's
I
like
have seen your legs.
they're
They're pretty white.
they're pretty pasty and covered in bug bites. But it's like, I'm not gonna sit here and start getting a fucking pitchfork and torch
Yeah.
because I have an
But that,
option.
and that's but that's the thing. There are people who have unlearned that sort of like entitlement, and there are people who haven't, and their perceptions of things like it. It's hard. I've had to have a lot of hard conversations lately with people at work about why are people upset, and it's like I have this sort of understanding kind of like I get if you don't exist in the world of people like me constantly every day that there's things that you're going to miss and maybe concepts you're not going to get, but I just at the core of it I cannot understand like being indifferent to something just because I don't experience it.
not
So
not just experiencing it, understanding it in the slightest.
yeah,
Because
like
that's a lot of what it is. It's a lack of understanding.
mhm. And I just I don't get it. Like I can't comprehend that because it's really not hard to like sit and hear somebody say like this is important to me. Why is that not enough? You know? Like why is it not enough that somebody says this is important to me because this reflects me? Why is that not enough for them to say, "Oh, okay," and just move on?
Yeah,
It,
just if it like again, for especially for like the idea of character creation. It's an option. That means you don't
mhm,
have to pick it.
mhm.
You don't have to acknowledge it in that sense of it's
But
some.
it's still really profound. Like I am somebody who wants to get top surgery at some point in my life, maybe. And I remember when Dream Daddy came out and you know, the Game Grumps guys were behind that one and so that was my whole interest in playing it and also I just like dating sims because I'm gay and I love to flirt with people. And I remember creating my character in that game and seeing that top surgery scars were an option. And that had such a profound effect on me. And it was literally just an option.
and,
Just an option.
and for that side of it, I love that we are making those leaps and bounds for games.
And that's the thing, it shouldn't be leaps and bounds though. It's like
It shouldn't.
it's so it is
It,
so it's such a minor thing.
I
It's such a minor thing and then people like get so upset and it's ridiculous.
Well, and like you bring up, it shouldn't be leaps and bounds, and the first thing that came to mind, and I love and hate that it comes from Sonic Boom's cartoon, but it's
Okay.
there's a scene in it where they're like playing soccer or something, and Amy goes to kick the ball, and before she does, she's like, and this is when um we have a wonderful, amazing woman athlete about to break the glass ceiling, and Knuckles goes, well, if you kind of bring attention to breaking the glass ceiling for feminism, then it kind of defeats the purpose of it being a big event for breaking the glass ceiling. And everyone just kind of looks at Knuckles and is like, huh? This came out of you? But it's like, but it sums up that point.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be leaps and bounds.
Yeah. It's like, I think I remember when, this is kind of similar, when The Fault in Our Stars came out and John Green, the author, made like a big deal about the girl in the book kisses the guy first. And it's like, yeah, that, like, back then that was definitely like more of like a moment, I would say. But yeah, when you make it's like this fine line of like, I think it falls on like people who aren't actively within those experiences, like having a straight white man scream about how amazing it is that he put this girl in his book to kiss the guy first. Like, these aren't his experiences, so like it's like, okay, like pat yourself on the back a little harder. Like, it's this fine line of like, if you make these things and it's not your experience and you don't at least have somebody on your team like to talk to you about these experiences, then you kind of sound like you're tooting your own horn, and it's just kind of like, okay, did you do this because you actually care about it, or is it performative, you know? um so like, yeah, it is kind of leaps and bounds, but it also shouldn't have to be leaps and bounds because it's the bare minimum.
Well,
It is the bare minimum.
well, and like, so you bringing that up in retrospect, like, because I've talked a little bit on here about like, for a long period of time, I was always afraid to talk about me being an ally. And so like, I don't post about politics. I don't try to talk about politics and all that jazz. I sat and I thought about what I was going to post so hard when I did, because of that idea of, well, are people thinking I'm just doing this because I'm a streamer and it's what's good for the community and stuff like this, or are these my actual opinions?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, and I know that you guys know, my community knows where I stand on.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to go into the nitty gritty details of who I voted for or stuff like that and everything. But at a certain point, I said, "Fuck it." The people I know who I am truly, they're going to see this as me, and they're going to see it as a point. And whoever doesn't, they can either talk to me about it and have an actual conversation, or fuck them.
Yeah. That, yeah, I think this is one of those things where like saying something is good, but also like if you're not actively being welcoming and inclusive to people, it's usually pretty obvious,
Yeah,
kind of thing. um and not being able, not wanting to talk about something is definitely from a place of like privilege that needs to be recognized sometimes, because if you're not talking about it, it's because you don't have to, and it's not affecting you. um so it's a hard point, because I tend to be timid for a lot of reasons, but it's also because of like active danger that I could be in for different things that affect me. But it's a good thing to sort of say, like, I will not stand for this, and I am somebody that is an ally, but saying it and then showing those actions are two different things. So it's a good baseline, but
yeah.
continuing to show up that way is what's going to matter in the end. And you have to make sure that you're doing it the right way. And the good thing is you have people like me to tell you if you are.
You, Bird,
Yeah.
literally all of the community,
Yeah.
and it's like, and getting back to like games,
Mhm.
we need to show these indie games love,
Mhm.
like, because that, like, bring back up to Gaia and Neopets and all those wonderful things. Those communities matter to people, our communities matter to people,
Mhm.
and if we can't sit there and highlight
Mhm.
the wonderfulness about it all,
Mhm.
then just like some of the other things we've talked about, or Gaia, it's going to wither and die.
I know. I don't know if there's any saving that at that point,
Oh
though.
yeah,
I think it's they're not doing enough, aren't able to do enough to revamp it in a way that will make it relevant currently.
yeah.
Um,
But I mean for
but
like our indie devs, because
yeah,
as you said,
with
if they're not successful, they're dead in the
I
water.
know, and yeah, that falls back on community because what like from an economic standpoint, we cannot fund these games alone, you
Yeah,
know? So that's why it takes,
it
and
takes a
I've
village.
heard I've heard people in my real life, like, out in the world complaining about people who look for these crowdsourcing things. You can't make this stuff on your own anymore unless you are born into money or you get lucky enough to be in one of these bigger developer companies, like, you can't make these original stories without community help. And that is where you find what people are really interested in and what they really want to see, and campaigning for these things to be made. That is the only way that these stories get told. And but it still sucks because I feel like that puts a lot of weight on everyone else's shoulders, and that's why it has to be shared.
Yeah. No, no, I
You had that look on your face of you're
no,
just like, oh.
no, it's an introspective, because as I've said before, and everything, like it's a thing that I'm still new to in a lot of aspects in retrospect. And if people had half the mind to just sit down and have a conversation and try to understand.
Do you mean like LGBT kind of
Yeah.
like so here's the thing. I have had these conversations lately, and I'm not gonna soapbox for
Yeah.
too long. There is a fine line because there are many people in these communities who have fought for years and years and years, and that's why they are not calm, and that is why they're not angry about it, because they've been calm and they've been explaining for a really long time. So yes, having that conversation is good, and you should have it with people like me, maybe. Um, But just because somebody doesn't wanna have that conversation with you, it's because they're tired of explaining it, and they're tired of going over it, and they're tired of rehashing it, and they're tired of having to explain why they deserve to be represented. Um, so I kind of had to have that conversation at work recently with everything,
Yeah.
and they're like, "Why is everyone so mad?" I'm like, "Because they're tired of fucking talking about it." Which I think is where, like, somebody like me who, like, is cis straight passing because I don't actively do anything to show how I feel otherwise because I'm too afraid. Um, I will have like those conversations with people because, that's my way of sort of like putting in that work. So, yeah. I know, and it's good to recognize when something is new to you and to, you know, seek out that information, and to also accept like when you're wrong about things or when you have like a misconception about something, or to just say like I may not experience this but I understand that you do, and I think that's a good way to be.
Well, and like bringing up, oh, it's a story game. It's kind of like Life is Strange. I played it in June. June's when I played that because it's free every June.
Mm,
You know what game I'm
that
talking
makes
about.
sense. I've never played it actually.
That was like a really interesting thing for me because like I got to put myself in the perspective of that character, and
Hmm.
yes, tell me why, Panic. Thank you. Um, Panic getting all the shoutouts in chat
Panic
tonight.
Panic has the information.
Uh,
At any given moment, if I look in the chat, there will be a paragraph of information I never thought about from Panic specifically.
um, but it's interesting as I've talked about, like getting to see that perspective and trying to answer questions from that perspective that I'm not used to.
Hmm.
And again, that's why I think these games need to be played and these need to
Mm-hmm.
be told and everything.
Yeah.
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 Uh, but so in this moment, I kind of want to turn the floor over to you for a bit.
Oh boy.
What do you have going on stream wise, game
Give me your
wise?
credit card information now. What do I have going on stream wise? I don't have a lot going on stream wise. I was gone for a whole month. I have no plans. Um, I've got, you know, Five Nights at Freddy's planned for some point.
Oh boy,
Um,
howdy.
I know. I'm going to be actually helping my friend Leah soft launch her stream career pretty soon. We were planning that out, so look out for IRL duo stream. Um Otherwise I've just been making art and trying to sell all that stuff again after not doing it for like a whole year.
Yeah,
due to
guys,
the due
guys,
to the depression.
guys.
Oh yeah, I gave you stuff.
Bug makes
Yeah,
stickers.
I do make stickers.
Go to their social medias and get stickers.
I have a coffee.
Also,
I'm probably gonna open an Etsy shop at some point, and
yeah.
then I've actually got a spring that I'm gonna be opening at some point once I get a couple more items made on there. So like t-shirts and what have you. But
Well,
yeah, other than that, I wish I could tell you I was doing more. I've always been kind of like a show up when I show up kind of person for these kind of things. Otherwise, if I think about it for too long, I get stressed out. It's
and
hard to make plans with me.
I totally understand that, but we love having you, Bug.
I
And
love being here.
we've I think this has been definitely going to be one of my favorite episodes that I recorded this.
Yeah, because it's me. Duh.
Not just because it's you, because
I know. I'm
it's
just
been
being a goof.
a genuinely good conversation, and I just want to thank you for coming to the arcade and talking about literally everything because we hit a lot tonight, and some of it
Mhm.
that I was gonna try to steer away from and everything, but I felt like it needed to be said
Mhm.
and it needed to be talked about. And so thank you for being here and I appreciate you coming.
Anytime.
And with that, folks, I think that is where we are going to wrap it up for the night. Uh, Thank you all for coming out and listening in. Remember, you can find Joystick Journeys on Spotify, Amazon Music, Amazon Podcast, Apple Podcast. We're on there now, so that's still a cool thing. We got every episode except for the first one on Apple Podcast for whatever reason. Um, and just kind of anywhere you can find podcasts, we're there. So if you guys want to give us some support, that would be super duper awesome. But as always, thank you guys, and good night.